seconds left. Eagles by 8. Brady lines them up. He's back again. He steps up. He's hit. He stumbles. He is throwing it deep for the end zone, and it is batted around and incomplete. And the game is over. The game is over. The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you. Let the celebration begin.
Aloha and hello out there, everybody. What's going on? This is Miho, joined as always by my co-host Pags for the Too Close to Call podcast, or Too Close to Call Sports. I think that's going to be the evolution, Pags, as I turn into more of a broadcaster as well. I think we're going to have the podcast and broadcast both under the Too Close to Call Sports mantra.
I like it. That's a nice little clever thing, and we're in our sweet spot right here with this episode.
Yes, we are. This series you're listening to, because you clicked on the title, is the Road to Victory series, where we're talking birds, and today, or yesterday, the day before, depending on when you're listening to this, but for us currently right now, it is today, and that is the first practice of the year. Now, granted, it's a slow walkthrough, but gosh darn it, Pags, it's a football practice. This podcast specifically talking about our birds, baby, and the recent news and headlines that came out just before camp opened, and the Eagles welcome back an old friend. Mr. Darren Sproles signed for a 15th season.
Yes, he did, and it's always nice to have a familiar face back in camp, and I know he's old, but the dude can help us out. I am ecstatic to have him back on the Philadelphia Eagles.
Really? Because I've seen some mixed reviews and mixed opinions come out on the role Darren Sproles will play and the concern around his health and availability, considering he's played in, I think it's, 7 games total the last 2 years combined?
Here's the way I look at it, man. If you can get Sproles to affect a game, it's a good signing. You got the bulk of the running backs already on this roster. It's not like we're going in thinking Sproles is going to be our guy. We're going to run this 36, 37-year-old into the ground. That's not what's going to happen. But if you need a big play out of the backfield, Darren Sproles can provide that for you, and that's why I like the signing. And not only that, but also the grooming of Miles Sanders, because Miles Sanders could kind of depict that of being a back out of the backfield while also getting some carries. So I think it is nothing but positive. You
don't think the guy's going to pull a hammy in week 2 and then sit out again until week freaking 12 or whatever it was last year? I mean, the guy had, a grade 2 hamstring strain, and then 3 months later, he's still eating up a roster spot.
But then he goes and he was one of the more key factors of getting into the playoffs. So that's what I'm talking about.
One more week and we wouldn't have gotten there.
Hey, but he came back.
He did, and I am more on the positive side myself for the Darren Sproles reaction signing. However, I do see some of the concern, as well as is taking a roster spot from one of these kids who can continue to develop. Because if you look big picture, and I'll ask you here maybe to glimpse into your crystal ball, if you can, that occasionally you whip out. But after this year, dude, the conversation is that Jordan Howard doesn't right now seem to be like they're going to re-sign him long-term. I know they just took Sanders. Obviously, Darren Sproles is his last hurrah. And then you have Corey Clement, who's had an up-and-down career so far. So you're rolling into the future with an unknown rookie right now, and Corey Clement. Is that something that concerns you? Because you could take a roster spot away from a Wendell Smallwood or a Josh Adams who may stick around, but because of this, could get picked up by another team.
No, because running backs are everywhere. We get a different running back every freaking year on this team. Well, we have Ryan Matthews, then it was LeGarrette Blount, then we got Jay Ajayi mid-year, and then they stick around for 2 years, and now we got Jordan Howard to do that for this year. So I don't see it being an issue. Running back is not the highest in demand, and as long as we can build around it, any running back can go in there and give you some production, whether it's not going to be the same guy every week, but that's the way Howie does it, and that's how we've done it for years.
I agree, man. I'm just going to be sick of the frickin' narrative every week of, is Peters and Sproles going to play? And, they played, but how many plays? Because, look at that. They're out after the first series. He must have re-aggravated that calf that's bothering him.
Yeah, the injury report's going to be the same old song and dance this
That's
year.
the only thing that's going to drive me nuts with this Sproles thing. Is he playing? Isn't he playing? Oh, he played. Well, he's playing 2 plays. And it's just, who cares, man?
No, I agree. I don't get as annoyed with it as you do. I know it drives you friggin' bonkers. But, dude, it's a positive. The team's better off with him on that roster. And let's freaking rock and roll. Maybe we'll finally get rid of Wendell Smallwood, who has been around forever on this team.
That's a gentleman who I am done with. I don't know if I'm in the minority there, but I think he can play a little bit. But if I don't have to watch him ever again, fine by me. So
yeah, no doubt. I mean, hilarious last name, but I'm done.
But I'm done. So what else are you looking forward to as we come into camp? I know there's a couple of different battles that seem to be catching everybody's attention, and I'm curious as to which ones that you ultimately are going to be focused on as the day-by-day tweets start to emerge from practice.
The funny thing about going into this season is a lot of the camp battles are for the 3rd, 4th spot on this roster, and there's not much to talk about with that because who cares who the 6th wide receiver is on this roster? But there are 2 intriguing ones. I was thinking about it. The one, Big Uglies, you had just mentioned it. Jason Peters, he goes out there, he starts the game, but he doesn't finish it. He doesn't even finish the first quarter. So I'm really, really interested to see who that second-tier left tackle is going to be. I mean, is it going to be the rugby player, Jordan Mailata? Is it going to be Big V, who has stepped in for the years past? Or is it going to be the new kid, Andre Dillard? And it's really going to be up to Jeff Stoutland to see what he thinks, because whoever goes in there is going to be protecting Wentz's blind side. Do you trust a rugby player who's been grooming, or do you trust the guy that's kind of inconsistent but has been doing it for a couple of years now? Or is the rookie, and as the rookie showed you enough to be like, yeah, we can trust this guy to protect Wentz? I think that is going to be a key factor.
It's got to be the rookie, man. There's no other options. There really aren't. I mean, Mailata, for all the praise they sing on him, he's not ready to play. I mean, I bet he looks good, but ultimately the conversation coming from the spring into training camp is he still needs to work on his hands. Apparently his feet are very athletic, but it's the punching and hand fighting that goes along with being a tackle at the NFL level that he's still continuing to struggle with, which makes sense because the guy's never done it before. So why would he be any good at that?
Hand fighting's probably one after feet is in importance in the NFL, because in college you can get away with some of it if you're bigger, but this guy's never played football before, and you're going to be going against who we got week 1. You're going against Claiborne in Atlanta. You're going to be going against Kerrigan in Washington. You're going to be going against the dude out in Dallas. There's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be getting after the passer. So you're probably right with Mailata. But that also goes with Dillard. Is Dillard ready for that? And do you trust a rookie to be Wentz's protector?
My opinion on Dillard is that the talent on film, I think, speaks for itself. And even if you get average play out of Dillard, you have to assume that that's going to be just as good, if not better, than what you were getting from Big V last year. Because, yes, he did play well in the Super Bowl run, but that's in the distant past when it comes to 2019. And last year, he just did not improve like you wanted a 3rd or 4th year guy to improve. So in my eyes, you got to put the rookie out there, especially because he was known as a pass blocker in college, and apparently his deficiencies are more on the run side and the aggression power side of the offensive line, because he took, I think it was 600 and some pass sets last year and gave up 2 or 3 sacks. Now I understand the Pac-12 isn't the NFL, but anybody who's doing it 600 and some times is taking a lot of reps, and reps are always good.
I agree with you, and they're paying him like he's the left tackle of the future because he was a first-round pick. I hope it's Dillard. Way too early to tell right now.
Well, ultimately, I think it's Dillard too, Pags, because looking into my crystal ball for the future, I think Big V is one of these offensive linemen for the Eagles who's on the trading block. So do not be surprised in the preseason if you see Big V taking those reps from Dillard, especially in games 1 to 2, because when you look at the roster breakdown and the offensive linemen specifically, you get to numbers 8, 9, and 10, and these are still individuals you've heard of, such as Big V, Mailatai, Pryor, and these are all people that should make an NFL roster, and just to a numbers crunch probably won't, and because of that, you're going to keep the first-round pick over the fourth-year, fifth-rounder in Big V. So I think they're going to try to flip him for a sixth, conditional seventh-round pick, and then roll with Dillard at the tackle position. And then I do think they think highly enough of Mailata not to try to get him through waivers, because somebody's going to pick up somebody who's been that big and athletic and in one preseason improved as much as he did.
For sure. He's definitely a stash and go guy. It all depends, and this whole conversation could be moot, but we know what's going to happen. So my question to you before I get into my next battle is, how many games do you foresee Jason Peters playing? If Vegas said
finishing or playing,
I will give you this. Starts the game and plays at least every series but 2. If Vegas said 6, would you go over?
In my head, before you put a number out, I said 7.
Yeah.
So I've heard 8 being thrown around. I think that's give or take. Now starting 12, 13, 14. Finishing 7, 8, 9.
Yeah. I agree.
Which means this conversation we just had is completely relevant to the success of the Philadelphia Eagles.
That's exactly why I brought it up, because it is compelling. I know it's a second-string guy, but Lane Johnson has right tackle down pat. This left tackle position, man, it's going to be interesting, and God forbid anything does happen to Lane, we don't know what we're going to do at that point.
Meat and potatoes for Lane after the recent Taylor Lewan information there, if you saw that.
No doubt. No supplements ever, Lane. That's
ever.
A 2-year ban. You're done. So, all right. So let me get into this last one. And this one is the secondary battle. You have 6 guys at corner who have played a lot of reps, at least of last year and in years past. At safety, you have 3, maybe 4 solid options, and then a couple of guys that I've never heard of. But it's going to be really interesting to see how this pans out, and I'm really interested to see who Jim Schwartz ultimately pencils in as the starting corners, because McLeod and Jenkins are going to be your starting safeties with a sprinkle in of either Andrew Sandeo or Blake Countess. And then after that, when you go to the 2 guys on the islands, who the hell are they going to be? Because we got Ronald Darby, Jalen Mills, Avonte Maddox, Rasul Douglas, Sidney Jones, Crayvon LeBlanc, not in any particular order.
How many of those gentlemen do you think ultimately they would stick with? Because if you're keeping 4 safeties, you keep 9 total in the secondary, 8 total?
I could see them taking 3 safeties. I think Sendeo's getting cut. And I see them taking all the corners here still on the roster, pending a trade.
Pending a trade. I think so too. And that's where it gets tricky, because there's a little bit of health involved as well, with the likes of Ronald Darby still trying to recover from that ACL tear and surgery a little bit later in the year last year. And then Jalen Mills coming off that foot to where he was still limited in the spring, and nobody really knows if he's going to be ready to go here at training camp. The odds and the money is on that he is not going to be, so that will continue to hinder him, which allows for the likes of Avonte Maddox, Sidney Jones, and Rasul Douglas. Those seem to be the 3, and at least today, that's the early word in the Twittersphere, is that those 3 were lining up as your first string corners.
Okay. And then with Crayvon LeBlanc kind of sprinkled in there?
Correct.
Okay. All is healthy. I would put my money on Darby and Mills being the starting corners. But Maddox showed you last year what he can do, and I would not be surprised if that man is starting at corner for us.
Well, this is where it gets again to Pags staring into the future and this year compared to the window, because Ronald Darby re-signed on a 1-year deal, so you don't have him locked down anywhere longer. Jalen Mills is on the last year of his rookie contract. Is he good? Is he not good? People tend to debate that on Sundays, and I'm one who certainly yelled at him on the television screen before.
No
Rasul
doubt.
Douglas, I think, is the same class as Darren Mills. He's coming up on the end of his rookie deal. And then you got Jones entering the third year with Maddox in the second. So ultimately, you really have Sidney Jones and Avante Maddox for sure moving forward. So depending on some of the other roster moves, that's where the trade late in the preseason for a conditional 4th or 5th for somebody like Jalen Mills can become reality, just because even if you keep him and he doesn't play, well, then you lose him for nothing. So why keep Jalen Mills as the 5th corner instead of flipping him for somebody and keeping Cravon LeBlanc, who's younger, less expensive, all of the above?
We got Sidney Jones, who people are viewing as the Markelle Fultz of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, well, they are University of Washington brethren.
Yeah, they are. And I think this is put up or shut up time for Sidney Jones here at camp, because last year they were like, okay, you have another year after the Achilles. Let's see some progress. Well, Sean Payton sure shows that in the one film against the Eagles Saints that Sidney Jones stinks. So
yeah, that 22 guy, he's not going to hold up. We're going to run right at him.
Yes.
Until he goes out of the game. And what did he do? Went out of the game.
I need to see tons of improvement from him. This is crazy, man. I mean, this is a lot of names. I guess it's better than only having 3 worth of shit. So we'll see what happens, and I'm very intrigued to see who ends up in these positions at the end of the day.
Yeah, somebody's going to play their way onto the roster, and somebody's going to play their way off the roster. It happens all the time, dude, all the time. But to end this podcast on a light note, Pags, off the top of your head, real quickly, who's going to be your darling of training camp? Who's going to be the person who nobody knows, undrafted free agent, plays extremely well, and all of a sudden goes, hey, man, let's keep this guy. He's a really cool story. A.K.A. the first one that pops into my head is Paul Turner, the wide receiver of years past.
Well, then Paul Turner and Rasheed Bailey a couple years ago, the Del Val kid from right around the area, those are all the guys that always pop up in my head as guys that everybody clamors for, but they're not going to play anyway. This team has so much depth. I think that's kind of a moot point this camp. If I had to put somebody on the radar, I'd probably go DeAndre Tompkins from Penn State, another local tie there. He's a wide receiver from Penn State.
Okay. I was going wide receiver myself. Charles Johnson, the AAF stud, who I had in fantasy football for the AAF.
He was on your team in fantasy.
That's my guy, man. I've been rooting for him for months. Might as well keep it going.
Come on, buddy.
For your NFL preseason fantasy football, pick up Charles Johnson.
So, yeah, all right. It seems to happen every year. There's some guy. And Corey Clement kind of blew past it last year.
That's another good one. Yeah, good example.
Where we were like, oh, okay, this guy's actually going to catch 100 yards in the Super Bowl? Okay.
Nobody had that right away. What are you talking about?
All these undrafted free agents, the majority of them are linemen, and let's just be honest,
the only other one I'm giving a snowball's chance in hell to is one of these linebackers. Like the kid from Wisconsin apparently could make some moves, because we are thin at linebacker. Now, we only typically play 2 of them, so that's where they're like, well, why would we keep 4 or 5? We may only keep 3. Again, odds stacked against everybody like you're talking about, but that's another position where there's some undrafted free agents that during the preseason are going to flash some talent, in my opinion.
maybe Anthony Rush from UAB, the defensive tackle. So we'll see, man. There's a lot of names here that could potentially pop up, and it's going to be fun. Let's just say that.
Absolutely. And next week we'll be coming back with you guys here, wrapping up the first week of training camp, and it's also going to be our first preview pod, where we're going to preview the first preseason game. That's coming up 2 weeks from today on the 8th of August. I believe it's against the Tennessee Titans.
Okay, let's go. I am so excited to watch Eagles football. Preseason's always hilarious because it's on the local channel.
We're not going to get Mike Mayock this year.
No, we're not. He's doing something else lately. I think he has a different job.
Yeah, he's got a new gig.
We'll see what happens, man. We'll see who they throw on there. I'd like to see Baldinger or somebody like that.
Hey, speaking of, inside sources say Mr. Mayock was in Avalon not too long ago.
Oh, what was he doing there?
He was hanging out, man, drinking a little bit before training camp starts this, 2-week period there, the downtime they had. He was kicking it in Avalon. One of those $1 million houses is his for sure, especially now because he just got a raise, I think, too.
Yeah, I think he's making enough money to support his family.
That's it. But all you listeners out there, all you Eagles fans, call us with your training camp darling. Let us know which corners, if they should trade Mills, trade Vaitai, what the heck you're going to do as general manager of the Eagles for under 3 minutes, because we found out that's where the cap is on the house.
Yes, it is.
The number is 484-238-0735, also available in our bio and in the description. We appreciate you guys listening. As always, this was a lot of fun, man, because we are not talking about the distant future, however, the near future.
The near. And we got breakdowns and everything coming in the near future. It is going to be sweet. We will talk to you guys with a Eagles-Titans preview next week. Later.
Peace.
9 seconds left. Eagles by 8. Brady lines them up. He's back again. He steps on. He's hit. He stumbles. He is throwing it deep for the end zone, and it is batted around and incomplete. And the game is over. The game is over. The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you. Let the celebration begin.